Hollywood had Gable and Lombard, Tracy and Hepburn, Mogi and Bacall. Montreal has Dutoit and Drouin. He conducts symphonies for a living. She deals in economic forecasts. The Conductor and the Economist, a long-distance love story. Hi, I'm Marie-José. Less than 10 years ago, the orchestra that's now rehearsing in this beautiful old church at Saint-Eustache, just north of Montreal, was flat on its back, both artistically and financially. Now, it's thriving. It's heard and it's honored around the world. The difference is its flamboyant and stylish Swiss-born artistic director, Charles Dutoit. Dutoit, who is our subject tonight, has set his mark not only on the Montreal Symphony, but with his wife, the brilliant and glamorous economist Marie-Josée Drouin, on Montreal itself.
1, 2. D. Okay, once more.
This orchestra has come a long way since 1977. Dutoit has hired and formed young and old musicians to his own sound, a sound now recognized worldwide for its clarity and precision. He's attracted a prestigious recording contract with Decca London, and it's here at Saint-Eustache that the orchestra records. Today, it's album number 18, Romeo and Juliet. Its predecessors have gone gold and platinum and won international prizes. In his spare time, the 49-year-old Dutoit promotes the orchestra, attracts sponsors and the public, and with a first-rate management team, balances the books. The MSO has toured to rave reviews in Europe, Asia, and North America. There's no doubt that the current success of the Montreal Symphony is due in large part to this man.
Tomorrow I'll be satisfied.
You are a star.
Well, you say it.
You're a star.
Ah, okay.
Did you set out to, when you talk about building an image, marketing is part of it. Have you deliberately set out to be a little larger than life, to have cars with your name, and campaigns and recognition? Is that part of selling the music?
Listen, a performer is a performer because he performs. In order to perform, he needs a public. Now, a conductor needs some kind of recognition because you cannot be a conductor in your room. Although I suspect that many people do.
Yeah. The other half of Montreal's premier couple is Ottawa-born economist Marie-Josée Drouin. She's 36, and for 9 years she's been executive director of the Hudson Institute. The Institute is a think tank that specializes in looking into the economic future. As its head, Drouin sells ideas for studies to prospective clients. Selling involves traveling, and travel she does much of the year. A great deal of her work for the Institute can only be done solo. It's not surprising. She's a very independent person. What's your last name? What's your last name?
Drouin.
No, I noticed that people, I just hear you from occasionally referred to as Madame Dutoit, but I don't
I always
think you
think I'm
think
speaking to my mother-in-law.
That's not you. Right?
If I mention to someone my husband's a conductor, they say, that's funny, we all know a conductor called Drouin, you know, because,
Yes.
it's a name I never use, so that it's somewhat unusual.
Today, Charles Dutoit is on his own. His wife, Marie-Josée Drouin, is out of town on one of her frequent business trips. Indeed, much of the time, one or the other of them is away, tending to professional commitments. Not one to dwell on being alone, his work schedule is packed.
You know, you sound like it. Yes, I know.
Self-confessed workaholic and impatient by nature, he insists on total involvement. Dutoit imposes himself on every detail of the symphony operation. His ambition is to make the Montreal Symphony Orchestra one of the world's great orchestras. To accomplish this goal, he has high expectations of his management staff, of his musicians, and not the least, of himself.
I'm trying to make you understand how a conductor can survive and exist, and what ambition a conductor has is to one day have the privilege to play a superb instrument, a Stradivarius, and that is a great orchestra, say the Berlin Philharmonic, or there are a few bunch of great orchestras in the world, and I suppose all the conductors, they really would love to conduct that. Now, in order to do that, you just can't decide to do it, or you can't buy it. You have to deserve it, and you have got to go steps by steps, to that level in order to be able to play these instruments.
But is part of building the conductor's career go beyond the podium? Do you have to have a public recognition that is larger than the music?
No, I think you're touching a subject which it's a typical North American subject. In Europe, orchestras don't really have this problem because everything is paid by governments, It's not the case here. It's a very subtle balance between marketing, building the image in order to receive the support from the community in order to survive.
Do you resent that at all? Do you resent the need to be a little bit of a...
No. I think it's very exciting.
C'est fantastique, ça.
Dutoit's zest and zeal for the successful marketing of his orchestra have led some wags to suggest that he'd press the flesh at local video outlets if it meant getting more subscriptions for the orchestra. Do you imagine Toronto's Andrew Davis or Calgary's Mario Bernardi doing publicity campaigns for a major car company? Dutoit did, and part of his reward is #1, a limited edition of Toyota Cressidas, available only in Montreal. Dutoit, the musical Swiss cowboy, has outmarketed his North American counterparts.
It's a great pleasure. I'm sure I'll have a great fun. Thank you very much.
Marie-Josée Drouin is in Washington, D.C. She's here to consult with co-author General Alexander Haig about their report, Europe and the World.
And what we've done is we looked at Italy, Great Britain, France, and Germany. Basically the same thrust is that a lot of the pessimism is unjustified, but we've gone much further in looking at what changes they have to do to their industrial policies.
Yeah, well, this is where there's room for a lot more flesh on the bones. There's no question about it. But I think the basic approach that we've taken is sound.
What I'd like to do today is get your feedback.
Later the same day, she presents their findings to military brass at the Center for Naval Analysis in Alexandria, Virginia.
Get your comments on some specific parts of the study, but mostly on the general approach that we've taken and also the basic conclusion of the report, which stresses the fact that Euro-pessimism has been largely exaggerated. And the reason I insist on this point is that when we started the study, most of the comments pertaining to Europe, either in the academic milieu or in the business community in Europe or in the U.S., focused largely on the decline of Europe, and there was a very generalized feeling and mood that Europe was undergoing very serious malaise and that Europe would decline relative to the U.S. and Japan. Europe would lose
Do a
out.
Hudson Institute on yourself and in your own life. Can you look at the future?
Yes, but I don't. Like, I guess we often say that the shoe repairman is never the one with the well-heeled shoes or what have you. I don't. I guess I'm a little bit more adventurous and impulsive. I don't try to plan the future. And every decision I've made in my life has been more in terms of the opportunities and what I could learn. And, you know, it was always a question of being at the right place at the right time. And so therefore that you can't plan. There are many possibilities. There's Figaro in Paris. Okay.
What can be planned, albeit hastily, sandwiched as it is between her meeting with the Navy brass and the airport, is a briefing with Tom Bell, head of the Hudson Institute in the U.S. They need to discuss strategy for her trip to France the next day. Business continues on the way to Washington National Airport. Bell is off to Hudson headquarters in Indianapolis, Drouin to a brief respite before her next round of meetings, interviews, and promotion of Europe and the world. Eugénie-les-Bains, a quiet village in southwestern France. This sleepy little town is the object of gourmet pilgrimages. It's the home of Michel Gerard, a major restaurant, hotel, and spa resort. Marie-Josée Drouin and Charles Dutoit have managed to make a date to meet each other here. It's time out from hectic work schedules, but mostly it's time to spend together.
Elle ne sert strictement à rien. Vous vous rendez compte? Alors,
Well, 5 days is short. I think it takes 1 or 2 days to unwind, and then you just begin to rest, and it's time to leave again. But it's very nice to be able to do that. We so seldom have 5 consecutive days that having that was quite a luxury. Now, there's always a bit of magic, and I wouldn't try to analyze that. But what makes it work on a daily basis is probably the fact that we're both very curious about each other, yet very respectful of each other's intimacy, and very curious about outside things. And so we just, I think we try to unconsciously always stimulate each other. But with regard to the rest, there's a cloud of magic there that I'd rather leave untouched and not try to analyze it.
For the Dutoits, this is an enchanted garden. This is where the herbs are grown for the 3-star restaurant. Evening at Michel Gerard. The Dutoits are indulging perhaps their favorite shared passion, gourmet dining. In 5 days at Eugénie, they've systematically tried everything on the menu. After dinner, they take in a little TV. Tonight, it's Le Grand Échiquier, France's most popular TV show, featuring a special guest. Tell me the extent to which you have to fight to find time for each other, for you. I mean, with your both, with the hugely busy schedule that each of you has. You have to work very hard to find moments.
Well, I must say Marie-Josée is rather wonderful in that respect because, you see, in my profession, one of the biggest problems is that we are booked so many seasons in advance. For instance, now we are starting to receive invitations all the way up to 1989.
A long time in the future.
Yes, indeed. You see, and it becomes an abstraction, you know. When you know that, for instance, when is it we go to Israel at Christmas '88?
Do you have a date now in Israel?
Yes, at Christmas
Well,
'88.
tentatively. I mean, he calls me and he says, would you like to go to, first it was supposed to be at Easter, would you like to go to Israel April '88? I can say now that I'd like to, but who knows in '88 how, my schedule will.
Well, never mind 1988. What about next Tuesday? I mean,
Well, this is
Next
it.
Tuesday, we're both in Montreal for a day.
We'll be back.
their brief rendezvous in Eugénie is over. Back to work. this time in Paris. For 5 days, they've had a pack, no newspapers. Now, they devour international editions of the English press. The French-language daily Le Figaro. Drouin has just completed an interview with the paper on her report, Europe and the World. The interview is part of an ongoing marketing process to promote studies produced by the Hudson Institute. Next on tap is a meeting with a former French ambassador to NATO. Drouin consults François de Rose on French and European defense issues. For her, it's a way to get some feedback on recently published work and to keep abreast of new developments.
Have considered to be the basis of their security, which is the ultimate danger of an acceptable nuclear damage.
Charles Dutoit is off to rehearsal with the French National Orchestra at Radio France. Quite frankly, we had a hard time keeping up with the Dutoit, and particularly with this man. On his downtime from the Montreal Symphony Orchestra, he conducts in Berlin, or Tanglewood, or Paris, adding to his reputation, building his resume. Even when all the musicians are on break, he remains at his podium, waving his arms, rehearsing in his head, hard at work. Although, with Charles Dutoit, it's hard to separate work from pleasure.
Many of my colleagues complain about the fact that you are traveling so much, and it's very tiring. You see, my philosophy is that, well, if I don't like that, I should change my profession, because there is really no way that I can have this profession without having to travel. So therefore, I take the good side of it, you know. And we certainly, love to travel for non-professional reasons anyway, because we are very curious. We like to see things. We like to go to museums. We like to, you know, for instance, next year I would like to go to South America, and Marie-Josée is going to come
Well, that's vacation.
with me because, you know, there are so many things that...
Take a little time out from your life and travel a bit.
Yeah, to try to combine.
Get on the road for a while. Their last morning in Paris. After all the work is done and before the plane lifts off, the economist and the conductor snatch a few more moments together.
Notre-Dame là derrière. Ça c'est génial. Mais l'huile de noix, c'est archi bon, ça.
Non, mais j'imagine que
Il y a même l'huile de noisette, n'est-ce pas?
Oui, mais ça n'a pas les mêmes vertus.
Moi, tandis que celui-là, il est très large aussi, beaucoup de celui. Celui-là, il va mieux faire, parce que ma vie, la clé ici. Celui-là, il va mieux faire tout.
Montreal's first couple live simply at home. They don't go out much. They eat at home. They read, watch TV, and discuss foreign policy. But to the world at large, they are a glamorous pair leading an exciting life. And at least part of the razzle-dazzle is the places where their work takes them. They're on their way to Tanglewood, the summer music festival in Massachusetts. Dutoit will conduct the Boston Symphony Orchestra, sit in on rehearsals of other conductors, and listen to music students. This is what the world sees. But there's much more here than meets the eye. The heart of their Tanglewood visit is a family reunion with Annie, Dutoit's daughter from a previous marriage. She's studying voice at Tanglewood. Dutoit's place a premium on spending as much time as possible with Annie. They see her several times a year.
Parce que moi, je trouve qu'on avait arrangé que ce serait très mignon, je dis que c'est quelques plus tard.
What children? Yeah.
I think it was important for us, we've been married only 3.5 years, that we establish a solid relation with Charles' children first, and especially his daughter, who's only 14 and who lives in Geneva, who really doesn't see her father very much. and who suddenly had this woman in her father's life. She didn't know me before we were married. And so it was more important to establish quite a solid relationship with her. And I think that's working out very well. In fact, we're very good friends. We write to each other nearly every week. And that's established, and we'll see for the rest later.
A hot summer evening in Laval, just north of Montreal. The Montreal Symphony has been invited to play to celebrate Laval's 20th birthday. The winning combination of a free concert, beautiful weather, and widespread popularity of the MSO attracts a record crowd. 125,000 people have come to hear Maestro Dutoit put his band through their paces. There are a few rock stars who can boast crowds this large.
Hey, Zarian, what are you doing here?
It's called hacky sack, a kind of miniature soccer, and it helps to loosen up before going on stage.
Accueillons le directeur de l'Orchestre symphonique de Montréal, Charles Dutoit.
The outstanding success of the MSO and Charles Dutoit are a source of great pride to Montrealers. Indeed, Mayor Jean Drapeau personally chose Dutoit for a recent publicity campaign, a city, call it proud. Dutoit's and Drapeau's ties don't stop here. Just before his marriage to Marie-Josée Drouin, Charles Dutoit went to see the mayor.
Well, I consider this a great tribute paid to our friendship. He thought that the mayor could, in Canada as in Europe, proceed with marriage, which is not allowed by the law. But then he asked me to accept to be his witness, which I did.
The happy twosome wed April 8th, 1982. It's her second marriage, his third. For him, it's third time lucky. There's a new life in Montreal these days. A resurgence that has leapt over the politics that have troubled so much of that city's recent past. The conductor and the economist make handy symbols of that new life. Montreal needs and enjoys the image they project.
I think everybody's difficult to live with.
Well, I would imagine Charles is difficult, particularly difficult.
Why do you say so? What do you know about me?
Because you've lived with him for 5 minutes.
Legends. I'm very easygoing.
How about impression? How about impression? You're very impatient.
Oh, yes.
You're very...
Not as much as I am.
Or you're impatient too?
Oh, yeah, she's more impatient.
You're very twitchy. You want always something has to be happening for you.
Yes, why should we lose time on those things? There are so many things to do in life, you know. I hate to lose time, that's right.